were basically in a one room, and we slept in the same bed, Mom and I, and she was operating off a Social Security check, and we had a tab at the grocery store in the neighborhood that she would make an X on the check, and I would sign her name and take it to the grocery store to pay the bill. So that period of time was one of the periods that kids can be tough on each other. I got a lot of teasing during that time, but I learned to compensate by the things that I did well and stood out, and that's where athletics actually came into the picture. So it was a tough period, but it was one that built the armor that I carried around me, and I learned how to handle myself during those times.
All right, welcome back for another episode. And today I'm sitting down with a man whose life covers more ground than most of us will see in 3. Here's what I want you to know walking in today's conversation. From the outside, he looks like the highlight reel. In fact, if you're watching me on YouTube, you see exactly what I'm looking at. But if you're not, let me give you this visual representation. He's got signed autographed basketballs, shoes, trophies, everything you could possibly imagine. You're about to see why. From the outside, as I mentioned, he looks like a highlight reel. A 3-time national champion, pro athlete in basketball, a businessman who ran the #1 restaurant of its kind in the entire country for 9 years straight. But that is not the reason I want you to listen to him today. I want you to listen because before any of that, he was a kid who was adopted and grew up fighting the feeling that he was not wanted. He came up in a country that kept the doors open for a man that looked like him. And every single time life told him to start over, guess what? He did, without losing his integrity and without losing his joy. If you've ever been handed a closed door and been told that this was as far as you can go, you need to hear this man speak what he has on his heart for 60 years of answering that same thing. George Tinsley, my dude, welcome to the show, my man. I'm super excited for this.
Well, Karl, thanks for the intro, and I'm glad to be on your show. And hopefully we can dive into some of those key points that you just mentioned.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. As I was doing some research and putting this bio together in the intro, and now looking at you and what's in your background there, I feel really honored to have this conversation with you, because it is rare that I get to have a moment with somebody with so much history, right? And it's one thing to have trophies and signed basketballs and shoes and all of that, but it's what I'm really after is this wealth of knowledge and wisdom and everything you've curated over this time, especially leading the restaurants that you've led and the businesses. But man, let's dive in. George, I want to just start before the trophies and the restaurants, because I think this is where the real story lives for the most part, right? Take me back to the young George. You have shared where you're adopted and all that. You fought a feeling of rejection and some rebellion in those early years. Paint us a picture of that kid. What was he carrying around that nobody could see? Just give us a picture of that time, man.
Well, Karl, there's two sides to that young man that was adopted, if you will. My mother left me with the babysitter, and the babysitter raised me until I was 13, and she passed away. Now, the feeling of not being wanted was really not a strong feeling, because the babysitter, who I call Mama, who raised me, she showed me love, and she did her very best. And I really did not linger on the adoption or the missing parents scenario until I got into middle school or junior high school, as we called it at the time.
Yep.
When she passed away, it was made fairly clear that I was adopted and was, from the outside of the family, if you will, from the her family, if you will.
Yeah.
So but she did her best, and the neighborhoods that I lived in, everybody in those neighborhoods was equally in the same economic situation. So it wasn't a situation where you felt that somebody else had and you didn't, in a big picture. But in a small picture, with respect to household needs and things that maybe some other families had, we were basically in a one room, and we slept in the same bed, Mom and I, and she was operating off a Social Security check, and we had a tab at the grocery store in the neighborhood that she would make an X on the check, and I would sign her name and take it to the grocery store to pay the bill. So that period of time was one of the periods that kids can be tough on each other. And so I got a lot of teasing during that time, but I learned to compensate by the things that I did well and stood out. And that's where athletics actually came into the picture. So it was a tough period, but it was one that built the armor that I carried around me, and I learned how to handle myself during those times, which carried over to present day. Some of those same learnings that I had growing up in the hood, if you will, or were experiences that carried over that helped me through other periods and times of obstacles.
That's incredible, man. And thank you for sharing a glimpse of a story, especially going from your birth mother, right? Your birth mother, then to your you said it was a babysitter that you actually ended up calling mama until the age of 13. Oftentimes especially in my experience, and I'm sure that you've seen this too, that when you have that kind of instability in in that childhood, man, that often leads to not for a path of success, right? Like, for example, if I were to look at, the mystery young Tinsley back then, I would not have envisioned, I'm sure you didn't either, of the version I'm seeing today, right? All the amazing accomplishments that you've made, all of the things that you've done. And what I took out of that is you didn't allow the adoption, you didn't allow that instability, the chaos, if you will, to interfere or to really interfere with what you've done. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. Yeah, there was a lot of role models, if you will, in the neighborhood. Most of them female adults that helped keep me on track. They understood, this lady that was raising this young man, her condition and so forth. I never really never really knew about my mother because I was 7 months old when I was left with the babysitter. So I never really looked into mother-father situation. Mama was my mama, and her son was, the father figure who would come in and out of our lives on a monthly basis, if you will. So it was only when, as I said, around that 13-year age when she got sick and had to go to the hospital, and I had to go stay with him, with her son and his wife. And
Yeah.
that's when it really, kind of drove the picture home. But she did her very best, and the folks in the neighborhood, the church, I had a seventh grade school teacher that really fell in love with me, and she took good care of me and challenged
Awesome.
me, and so integration when integration came along, and I was like I was in the fifth grade, fourth grade, and moved into a integrated white school. That was a tough period
I can
because
imagine.
I don't think the teachers were too excited about us meaning blacks coming into the school, and
Yeah.
we all had to take tests, and in taking the test, that the test was to put us in the right learning curve, if you will, of where we
Yeah.
tested. And unfortunately, for me, I was put back a year in school, and
Mm.
that was the first rejection that I had in the school system. But it was a challenge, and it caused me to change my way of attending school, and I used to use being the class clown as my defensive mechanism. But I saw what was happening when my
Yeah.
sixth grade teacher told me that I needed to quit school and go get a job, that I
Mm.
wasn't going to graduate. So I took that challenge on, and showed her that I could do it, and I passed to the seventh grade, and that's where I met that seventh grade school teacher who really took a liking to me, and started guiding me in the right direction.
Man, that's a great story, man. And to be told that, hey, you just need to go ahead and quit and go get a job and just be a statistic, right? Um, I'm hearing in here that you use this as a source of fuel, right? Like you put a chip on your shoulder, like, okay, I got you, thank you, right? Thank you for telling me that. Now I've got somebody to prove wrong, and is a direction I kind of want to steer into next because basketball comes along. I don't know where in a timeline where this comes into play, but it gives you something, right? It gives you the sense of identity, a belonging, a place where rejection finally goes quiet, right? So in this timeline, where does basketball fit into the equation here?
Well, basketball came at that same time that I moved to the seventh grade,
Okay.
and my seventh grade school teacher was very close to the gym teacher, who was a big, deep voice guy that carried a paddle. That was in the days when the teachers were allowed to use paddles.
Yep, I remember.
So I would always, rather than going to lunch, I would always go to the gym. She
Hmm.
would bring me a sandwich or, apple, orange, or fruit,
Yeah.
she knew my situation. And so I started, we didn't have a basketball team as such, but he started putting guys together and taking us to the boys and girls club to work, to play. And we started developing a team, if you will. And so
Mhm.
that's where I wasn't the greatest skilled basketball player, but I was a good all around athlete, very, very fast, and I could jump, and I was tall. So those things helped me on the basketball court. She challenged me in the classroom by giving me a job
Yeah.
as the film guy that went around when classes were having audiovisual day. So I went in and set up the projector. That was that old reel-to-reel
Yeah.
projector,
Yeah.
and so I was great at that. And as long as I kept my grades up and did the things that I needed to do in the classroom, then she let me do that job. And I was the sole person in the whole middle school to handle that. So that was built my self-esteem, if you
Yeah.
will. And
Yeah.
so, I had some hand-me-down clothes, and because I was growing real fast at that time, when I hit my growth spurt. So that's when basketball athletics, because I was fast. We'd have competition day, and so I could run, jump. We could do just about not the best in each area, but almost there. So I was ranked very highly in the different competitions that
Sure.
took place, broad jump, sprints, the distance running, softball throw, all of those kinds of things I did real well. And so that's where, then I started playing on the playground back in the neighborhood. And that's when, the gangs and so forth, they didn't bother you if you were a good athlete. They kind of supported you, if you will. And so that helped me, in a roundabout ways.
Real quick before we keep rolling, maybe life hit you hard. Business fell apart. Career isn't working out. Relationship ended. Health took a dive. And now you're standing in the rubble trying to figure out what the next move even looks like. Or maybe nothing blew up at all. On paper, you're winning, sure. But on the inside, something's off. You're not in crisis. You're at a crossroads. And the playbook that built the life you have is not the playbook that builds the one you want. Either way, you're stuck. Not broken, stuck. Between who you were and who you're becoming. Most self-help just piles more weight on the load you're already carrying. I do not want to do that. I put together a free video series called The Grit Code Exposed, and I want to invite you to check it out. 7 short videos, that's it. The 5 laws that change everything for me and every client I coach. The same 5 that every person who's ever come back from the fire has walked through, whether they had a name for it or not. No fluff, no 90-minute webinar, no bait, just the free video series. You can start it tonight. Grab it at gritcodeexposed.com. One more time, gritcodeexposed.com. It's free. You don't need more hustle. You need the next version, and this is how you find it. Check it out. See if it speaks to you, and if it does, I'll see you on the inside. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, I can imagine. That's interesting. I never really realized that until you just mentioned that. So, if I'm understanding the timeline correctly, this happened all right around integration occurred, right? When the schools were starting in. How did that affect you? In a sense of not being on the team yet, but you're still creating this team. You're still learning your place, right? You're still learning your place. You're still getting your confidence. Like, how did all this play into effect? Because for me, I'm hearing multiple things, right? I'm hearing you're getting your confidence, from your school teacher because she's giving you control over the audio visual, and you're starting to see yourself as a talented athlete, right? And you're in that. And then I'm also seeing the other side of the coin here where there's integration occurring. And we've all seen movies, right, where, that wasn't the best time, especially, for, African Americans, it was very tough for that time, So, give us your perspective, how did that play into your life at that time? Because, I'd just love to hear how that happened for you.
Well, Karl, keep in mind, it was just Mama and myself, and we lived in this one room. She had one leg and walked with a crutch and
Wow.
couldn't get around. She wasn't very mobile. So once I left the house, you can only imagine the worry and concern that she had. This was a time when Emmett Till was actually killed, and so we didn't get the newspaper, but the rumors of what all happened and the visual picture of him in the casket and so forth after being beaten and shot and everything else, that was instilled in most young black children at that time. This is my fifth sixth grade, period. So you learn to be cautious. You learn to, you were told not, if you were walking down the street on the sidewalk, and if a white lady was coming towards you, don't look her in the eye. As a matter of fact, cross the street to make sure you did not set off any kind of troublesome scenarios. So, and a lot of us took that as an understanding of how far to go. Some people challenged it, and so forth. So it was an individual thing that you made you how to handle yourself, and how your parent, if you will, guided you through those situations. But, I talk about one situation where some of my friends lived a couple of blocks away from it, a white family who the two sons I was very close with in school. And it was a group of us, black and white, that we hung out together playing sports and so forth and riding bicycles. Well, one day we were riding a bicycle, and I was the only black in the group riding the bicycles that particular day. A number of times we were, completely mixed group, but that time I was the only black. And a group of older white boys started shouting an N-word and started chasing us. So it was an area in Louisville called Beargrass Creek. We went down into the creek, ditched the bicycles, and ran. And we were familiar with the area, so we got back and was safe, no problem. But from that point on, I noticed that their parents kind of guided them away from me being around all the time because of what it was bringing about in the situation. So you developed instincts and skills to be able to handle yourself, what to do, what not to do, and the survival rate. But
I could.
Sorry, but on the other hand, there were those like my seventh grade school teacher and the gym teacher who made sure that the environment that they were controlling was a safe environment.
Man, I just kind of hearing your story, hear your take of this, and I'm just actually, as you're talking about, riding the bicycles, I'm actually visualizing, picturing this occurring, right? Walking, and not walking, just riding your bikes, having fun, just having conversations. This is kids at your age should be doing, right? And then you've got some, ignorant individuals, behaving at a level that just quite frankly is unacceptable. But you decided to not give in to that. You decided to use that, as leverage and to build out your survival instincts, right? To build out who you are today. Fast forward, I want to start diving into some of the things that were beyond this, right? 3 national championships. You move on to becoming a pro athlete, and then it ends, and it ends for when it ends for everybody. So take us through that. What was it actually like the day you realized the game that defined you was over?
Well, I guess I've got to kind of walk you through that.
Yeah.
I was in high school a very good athlete, started from my sophomore year through my senior year, but I wasn't the star of my team. I made third team All-State. I did real well, but I always had one other player that was All-State, if you will, first team. The guy that was ahead of me and the guy that was behind me. So that always challenged me to be better, to keep improving, to everybody wants to be the number one guy. So when when I graduated from high school, I had quite a few offers to run track and to play basketball. So I chose to go to basketball because that was a full scholarship. Plus, the one of the guys that I played with was a year ahead of me. He was there, and the coach of the team, he had coached at the high school before I got there to high school. So there were people that I knew, and it wasn't that far away from home. Mama had passed away at that time, so I was living with her son and his wife. So there were, when I went into college, I made the first five because I was a good defensive player and a very good rebounder. So that team, we won the national championship in my freshman year, and as an 18-year-old. And we went to Africa and taught basketball during the summer, and we had 3 black guys on the team, and the rest 7, 8 white guys on the team. So we bonded during that time of playing, of teaching and coaching basketball in Europe and Africa. So come back and we have our very best team in my sophomore year, but I got sick in the final four, and so I didn't get to play the last 2 games. Earl Monroe, who was a great player, they beat us, and that team, we came in 3rd place. I always tease my teammates and say, you lost because I wasn't there. But we won the championship the next 2 years. So I developed into All-American 2 years, junior and senior year. Tried out for the 1968 Olympic team. Was an alternate, had great games, but I busted up my ankle and did not. No player from Division II had ever made the Olympic team at that time. So the junior college guy did, Spencer Haywood, but. So I had, gotten accustomed to ups and downs, if you will. But that was the 4 years in college were the greatest 4 years that I've had in my whole education and athletic career. Got drafted by the Chicago Bulls in the NBA and the Oakland Oaks in the ABA. I chose the ABA because they were offering money up front. The NBA, you had to go, and then we had to make, try out several times to make the team. Long story short, went into the ABA. The ABA was unstable. I signed with Oakland, but by the time it was the year was to start, practice and so forth, that team had folded, and we'd moved to Washington. So it was the Washington Caps. And by the time I got into 5 games into the season, the Kentucky Colonels, which is there in Louisville where I grew up, had bought my contract. So I'm back there. So the point here is that during that time, you were bouncing around from team to team. Almost everybody that played in the ABA bounced from one team to another. Very few played the whole career at one team. So I'd gotten adjusted to the ups and downs. Fortunately, I had an education. I graduated in college, had made the dean's list, and
nice.
I received the highest honors in a number of different departments. Was a king and queen at campus. I don't want to take too long, but I was at the point where I was pretty confident in myself and what I was doing. So I just got married, my sweetheart from college. And so awesome. I was concerned about taking care of family and so forth. So when I did get released from New York, which is where I wound up, New York Nets, I got released, and my contract was going to Dallas. But rather than doing that, I decided to come back home and start a career after basketball. So the adjustment was, it wasn't that bad. But did I miss playing professional ball? Yes. Did I feel I could play? Yes. But I had to keep my priorities in line, and it was easy to move on to something else, but I did miss the game.
Man, that's an amazing story, man. I thank you for sharing this. That's such an amazing story, and I love the glimpse of the past, especially having the potential of playing for the Chicago Bulls and some of the other teams you mentioned here. That's an amazing portfolio, an amazing resume. That's where I was looking for, an amazing resume.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
Karl, I want to mention that that team, those 4 years, we're now we've been nominated for the Naismith Hall of Fame, and we're in the Veterans Committee right area category. So hopefully one day that group, that our teams will, the 66, 68, and 69 teams will get hopefully get that Hall of Fame nod.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
heck yeah, man. Well, definitely have our vote, man. That's awesome, dude. Heck yeah, that's awesome to hear. Well, man, so you step away, you step into business, as a Black entrepreneur, and so especially in that especially in that era. But let me kind of rewind for a little bit, because in this transition, you mentioned that you stepped away and you immediately went into business. A lot of people, especially when they've associated their identity to a very specific role that they were good at, something they've known for so long, right? Such as you're a good athlete. You fell in love with the game. You've done this over and over. You just didn't kind of see that going away until it was on your terms. And then you stepped into business. How did you go from that? How did you go from being a successful athlete and, accomplishing the things you've accomplished, national championships and so forth, and then moving into business? How did you do that? How did you tackle that?
So my transition was when I left professional basketball, I became a teacher and a coach at my high school that I had attended. So I taught and coached high basketball, track, and cross country for 3 years. We were very successful in all three sports. Won the state championship in track, and also we won the state championship in basketball. But at that time is when busing started in Louisville, Kentucky, and so I got moved to a different school, and that kind of upset my whole feeling about what I was doing. I loved coaching. I wasn't real crazy about teaching, but that went with it, and I love working with the students. So once that happened, I spent one more year, my third year, coaching and teaching at the other school. So I decided to start looking around for another option as far as my work history, and so. My wife and I, we were thinking about a family at that time. So the teaching salary just didn't pay it. So anyway, I applied for the FBI. And FBI was recruiting agents at that time. And so I got accepted and was getting ready to sign the dotted line to go to Quantico. But I'd also interviewed at Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation through a friend of mine. And so they offered me a job as a training instructor because of my teaching background and also for being there and local. So I turned down the FBI job and took the training instructor job because they were just starting a training school there in Louisville, Kentucky. Didn't know I was going to actually be working with the Colonel himself, the guy who invented this recipe.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I worked with KFC 3 years as a training instructor, then went to area supervisor in Atlanta, Georgia, and then took over the 51 stores there in the city with training department and so forth. Then back to corporate as vice president of human resources for Kentucky to Hawaii, and my wife got an offer to become a general manager of a radio station in Jacksonville. So I walked in KFC to actually resign, and because I'd become qualified for a Burger King franchisee, and I was going to get into the Burger King franchising. But KFC refused to let me resign. They offered me a franchise representative position, director of franchise correlation between the corporation and the franchisees. And
Yeah.
so went down to Jacksonville, and covering that area of South Georgia and North Florida for about 2.5 years. And at that time, Jesse Jackson and Operation Push had created within corporate America opportunities for minorities to get into businesses and so forth. But KFC had been with the minority franchising program for about 2 years, and it wasn't that successful. So they started looking inside, and that's where I got the nod. And I got the nod because the senior vice president who had the Florida market is a guy that I had trained in Atlanta when he first came
Oh.
in. So I had a relationship. So he said, well, why don't we give George an opportunity to become a franchisee in Florida, which I did in Auburndale, Florida. So that in 1984, so that's where I opened my first restaurant. That was my first franchise opportunity.
That's
So that's how I
awesome.
got there.
Wow, that's an incredible story, man. Man,
Yeah.
you're full of all sorts of surprises. I didn't even know that that you apply for the FBI and you're accepted, and you're moments away from signing your life away, right? I mean, the average person would probably look at you and be like, "Are you crazy?" Right? Looked at that as probably not necessarily a lifetime opportunity, but just a rare opportunity to be looked at as one of the best, right? The FBI and some of these other 3-letter agencies, But you decide to take a different path that you, in your eyes saw as a bigger and better opportunity, and not only for that, man, you probably did this at one of the best / worst times that could ever happen, right? Because especially as a Black entrepreneur, and you even suggested this, that there was a whole lot of available options for you, right? There's constant doors being slammed. So take us back for a moment, if you will. Take us back to a moment or a specific door got shut in your face. Where were you? Who was across the table, and what did they say to you?
Well, if you asked that question, and what comes to mind real quick was when I took over the franchise manager position in Jacksonville, I had 22 franchisees that I was assigned to help them grow their business. Half were in Florida, the other half was in South Georgia. Well, the group in Florida, Florida was owned by the colonel's daughter and her son, and so we had just bought the state of Florida, so it was getting them on the contract, the agreement of that had all kinds of restrictions and so forth that you had to follow, all kind of guidelines you had to follow. I won't call them restrictions, guidelines. But Florida had just been kind of a loosey-goosey scenario where the franchisees didn't have any real hard guidelines. So the first meeting that we had, the franchisees in Florida showed up. One had a gun. They had recorders, and it was told to me. I didn't know that for a fact, but 3 of the guys that were franchisees at the time, I understood to be part of the Klan. So it was a very, very tough situation for me to come into. As a matter of fact, they called the 2 franchisees called the corporation and said they did not want to work with me in the area. But long story short, by the end of the first year, I had all of the meeting out of my hand, if you will, because I taught them how to make money. Everybody grew their sales and grew their profits based off of the programs that we established and giving them a better way of operating the business. And in those days, a lot of franchisees owning a KFC the volumes weren't that high, and they weren't making a lot of money, so they were doing other things other than just having a KFC, and other products were being sold out of the restaurant. So we put some guidelines in, and that changed the whole philosophy and the whole business model to help them become more and more profitable. So anyway, yeah, that was the first time from a business standpoint that the door was kind of closed, if you will,
Yeah.
in my face. But Karl, throughout my life, there was always those challenges, those doors that were closed that I had to figure out another way to get through, either go around, over the top,
Yep.
or straight through that door to get accomplished the objective and the goal. So that was
Yes.
just that when you asked me the question, that was the thing that jumped to my front of my mind.
Awesome, man. That's whew. As I'm listening, I'm like, man, the Klan and guns and all of these different things.
Yeah,
You know, I, I'm kind of speechless for a moment.
yeah,
Eh, help us understand, especially with the upbringing you've had and the journey you've had, and up to this point, man, you're getting ready to take over, this franchise, or you're starting out your franchise. Um, up to this point, man, was there any fear? Was there anything? Did you hear any voices in your mind telling you, George, what are you doing here, man? This is. You remember where you came from? Remember your background? Remember this? Remember that? Remember all these things people said about you? Was there ever that fear, man, where it felt like maybe you wouldn't be successful in any of this because of your background, because of your upbringing, because of all this stuff? Was there ever those times?
Well, going back and looking at where I came from, there was always fear, but there was
Yeah.
always, but it was always control fear. There was always
Mm,
the possibility of failure, but understanding how I faced challenges throughout from my childhood to where I was and where I am today. I knew that I could overcome them. I could figure it out, and that there were people out there that would be willing to help. And I
yes.
always focused on positive things versus negative things,
Yes.
and that helped me get through. And people, I don't care what their feelings are, whether they're a Klan member or whether they're whatever they are, there's always a little good in everybody. And
Agree.
if you can search and figure out a way to be able to deal with that particular situation and move on, then stay away from the negative and focus on the positive, then you can be successful. When we first opened our first restaurant, the KFC, we were sued once, at least one time, the first 5 years, and that particular restaurant became the number one KFC in the nation for town size in the first year
Wow.
of operation, and remained in the top five for 35 years. And
That's
because of the
incredible.
volume in that small town of Auburndale, Florida. So we ran into all kinds of situations, but we overcame them. And working in the restaurant with my employees and showing them how to be successful and how to deal with the customers and how to maintain the restaurant in a
Yeah.
proper way has it put us above the rest. And so I think that when people start thinking about going out to eat, they came to visit us. So we did a lot of innovative things that like lobby hostesses that talk to the customers,
Yeah.
opening the door, things that you wouldn't normally see in a KFC.
Yeah. That's so incredible, man. 35 years,
There's
top five. That's incredible, man. I mean, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years even, but 35 years. That's just incredible. That's not a small feat, my friend. That is no small feat. Let me ask you, man, when you first took over this franchise, when you first started this, did you feel at all any sense of like maybe a chip on your shoulder? Like maybe you now have to reprove yourself that because of all of this friction, because of all the people that were not necessarily against you specifically, but maybe what you're up against in that period of time, right? Did you feel like in that time you have to reprove yourself? Like, all right, now I've got to succeed in this because if I don't, either I'm going to look stupid, or I'm going to pay the price, or did any of that come in play?
Well, once again, keep in mind that I had worked 8 years with KFC Corporation, and those 8 years, from the training department to
Yeah.
human resources to operations, and then work with the franchisees, I gained a lot of knowledge on do's and
That makes
don'ts and
sense.
how to be successful. So I'd seen success, I'd seen failure, so I knew what not to do. Now, you take my own personality and my wife's personality, because she was involved as well, and the
Yeah.
employees that we trained and retrained. So yes, I felt that there was pressure to be successful, but I knew I could do it. I knew we could do it. So it comes from the coaching, from the playing
Yeah.
sports, being successful, winning championships, losing championships. All of that went into that model that we created within our system. And so our employees we had employees that we sold that particular restaurant 4 years ago. So we were at that particular restaurant right at 40 years. And I had employees that have been with me 39 and 40 years. So that's unusual
Wow.
for KFC. But
That's
yeah,
unusual for any
yeah,
place to be. I wouldn't just say that for a KFC or for.
yeah,
I would say that in general, man.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the things we pride ourselves with is our employees, and once we get our employees past that first 9 months or so, then we as long as they're performing and doing, they usually hang in there. So we've been known to have long-term employees.
That's incredible, man. Huge, man. Man, I'm proud of you, man. And you're probably not going to, take the way I'm trying to take it, but man, so many people that come from the kind of history you've had will allow the outside in circumstances to interfere with their thoughts and their beliefs and all of that, right?
Mhm.
But time and time and time again, you just kept setting the bar. You kept setting the bar and setting the bar. And it was because of the belief in yourself. And the belief of yourself is because you still showed up every single day. Not because the days were hard or easy. It's because in spite of the days being hard, in spite of people calling you names and shutting the door on you and doing despicable things, you still showed up every single day. And that's what gave you the grit. They gave you the resilience to do the things that you do today. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. And as I said, I had a family to take care of, and
Yeah.
I had people that believed in me in the community. My wife and I both won Businessman of the Year, Businesswoman of the Year. We
That's
were very
incredible.
involved with the chambers that the surrounding cities that we were involved in. So we've always been the high achievers, if you will, in just about everything that we've done. So not bragging, but it's just always been a goal to be the
Yeah.
best you can at what you do. So
Yeah.
as I've entered into the other franchises, TGI Fridays, as you mentioned earlier in the intro, that TGI Fridays became the number one restaurant in the nation. The first restaurant, the Auburndale restaurant, I'll give you a little story real quick.
Yeah.
It was the first one to open. It burned down to the ground 5 years into the business. I had two other restaurants I had developed at the time. When that restaurant burned down,
Oh no.
I won't take you through the whole story. That's in my book, Catch as Catch Can. That restaurant, while it was burning down, I happened to see these lunch trucks lined up because traffic was always backed up. So, I think God spoke to me, and I followed those trucks to all of their stops. Bought me a truck. Put warming cabinets in the cash register, the whole thing in there, and I
Yeah.
loaded up at one of my other restaurants, and I beat those trucks to their spot, and we turned that into our daily sales. We were equaling our daily sales that we had before it burned down. Reopened that restaurant after understanding some of the design that we needed to do because we couldn't handle the volume that we had. And when we rebuilt the store, we made those changes: drive through, ingress, egress, the
Yeah.
throughput. and we doubled the volume of that restaurant when we reopened it because of that whole experience. That's probably one of our greatest turnaround stories.
Real quick before you go, if you're still with me this deep into the episode, something in it hit you. Maybe it was the guest. Maybe it was one line. Either way, you're still here. And that feeling in your chest right now, that's the signal. Most people get a signal like that and do absolutely nothing with it. They close the app, life rushes back in, the moment's gone. 6 months later, they're in the exact same spot. I don't want that for you. So I put something together. I want to invite you to check out a free video series called The Grit Code Exposed. 7 short videos, the 5 laws I walk every client through. The same ones that rebuilt me when everything else fell apart. And if you listen closely today, you heard them running underneath the entire conversation. Because everyone who's come back from the fire walks through these 5 laws. Some find them on their own, some get help, but the laws don't change. Free video series. You can start it tonight. No fluff, no 90-minute webinar, just the series. And if you're going to do something with what you heard today, do this before life talks you out of it. Go to gritcodeexposed.com. One more time, gritcodeexposed.com. And hey, before I let you go, thank you for riding with me this long. It means a lot more than you know. Thank you. I love that turnaround story, which actually leads me to my next question for you, because you kind of already plugged it in there, right? Your whole philosophy, even your title of the book, right, which I love, is finding the opportunity inside every obstacle. Right. I know I know too many people that look at an obstacle and they just, it's all victim, right? Woe is me. Life is hard and it's always negative. And that is easy to put on a cover, right? For finding an opportunity inside every obstacle. Where did that rule actually come from? Like, give us a scenario, or help us understand, where did that rule actually come from?
The role of turning obstacle to opportunity?
Yeah.
Good question. Well, I mean, as we talked, just about every step through my life has been meeting challenges and figuring out a way to get through them and get over, around, or directly through. So that's pretty much my story. It's not necessarily where you start; it's where you finish. And so we're all going to experience challenges in life. But I believe if you believe in a higher power, you believe in positive, then you're going to be successful. And it's up to you.
100%. 100%. Period. There's no comma. 100%. Period. Absolutely. And looking back, would it be fair to say, just based on what you said, that everything looking back has 100% led to the person you are today?
Certainly it is. I thank God that I've had the opportunity to develop a legacy and be able to mentor a lot of our employees and people in the communities that we do business in, those communities that we work with. So it's our goal, both my wife and myself, to reach back and motivate and bring people along with us as we move forward.
Love it, man. That's awesome. You said something. You gave you credit your success to accountability to a personal standard of excellence. Not sometimes, every day. Be the hardest worker in a room, right? Treat every person as they matter. And outside looking in, that gets said loosely so often, but I'm hearing your story, George. I'm hearing everything you've accomplished. And people that have been with you 39, 40 years at this latest KFC, the restaurant you just sold here, that is a clear picture that you live this, right? You live this in practice. So when nobody's, walk me through what an actual, like, just give us an audience a quick picture. Walk us through what that standard actually looks like on a normal, or I say normal, on an ordinary Tuesday when nobody's watching and there's no trophy in it. Like, walk us through that.
Well, my goal has always been to what can I do better? What can I do that is going to be a positive influence on someone else?
Yeah.
I'm a competitive person, and so I like challenges to do and be the best that I can. My wife, why we've been married for 54 years.
I was
And
about to ask you that. Wow.
part of the reason for that is she's constantly challenged. She's the most grounded person that I know, and she, if I'm successful in something, she'll let me know that you can fail at any minute. So you gotta do this, gotta do that. So it works well, and in all of this. I'm not perfect. We're not perfect. We've made a bunch of mistakes, and we continue to make mistakes. But we try hard. We try and do to be the best we can be. We try to bring people along with us
I love that.
as we move along.
I so love that. I got to ask, just because, in a couple of months, my wife and I are going to be celebrating 26 years. And so I'm here 54 years, and it seems like a lifetime, right? And as I'm looking back, 26 years, it does seem like a lifetime. I love to hear your perspective on this. What is the secret to 54 years? And you're chuckling. I love this, but what is that secret, man?
I hear that so much that and my response is that it's just a commitment to each other. It's every day, every year is a new challenges. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have personal goals that you have. I'll give you a little example. My wife and I, when we first got into the franchise business, the first franchise, we both worked in the restaurant. She quit her job as a radio executive and went to training school and came back and got involved in the restaurant. So she has a dominant personality. I have a dominant personality. I'm probably a little bit more passive than she is in understanding big picture versus small picture. So I think about 6 months into the job or into the restaurant, she said it was a mispacked order. And I was running the drive-through and always talking to the customers and so forth. And she's a little bit more reserved in that area. But anyway, the order was packed incorrectly. And so she said, "Well, that's what you told me." I said, "No, I gave you this." She said, "I tell you what, I quit." and so she didn't really quit. We just understood that she needed her space. I needed mine. So she took on the administrative working out of the house until we were able to get an office, and then and we've divided our accountability and responsibility. So it's working together and understanding that and caring for one another and recognizing when you have to step back and pitch in.
So. Man, thank you for sharing that, dude. I mean, really, thank you for sharing that, because especially in today's time, today's culture, we tend to give up on things when there's troubles or when there's some type of resistance, right? Either by our own doings or from outside, external circumstances. You and I are both men of faith, so you can share this. But the enemy is constantly attacking us, right? It's attacking us through our marriages, it's attacking us through our businesses. Everything we touch, every window, the enemy is constantly attacking. So thank you for sharing that wisdom, because so many people are looking in. If I didn't include myself in that, it'd be just but oftentimes we're looking for that secret, like why, how are they married for 54 years, and commitment is the biggest thing. Fast forward to today, you're speaking nationally, you're hosting your own show, You wrote your book, and you're leading the charge to get your team, the 66 Kentucky Wesleyan, into the Hall of Fame. What are you most fired up about right now? Because I'm sensing you're in heavy legacy build mode, right? What are you most fired up about right now, George? The world hasn't yet seen of you.
Well, today we're turning the business, or we have turned over the business to my son, who has now become president of the company, and so our biggest drive is to make sure that he's successful in building an infrastructure around him that steps away from what we've done over the past 40 plus years. So that's the primary objective. Secondarily, speaking to different groups and organizations, trying to share my experiences as we're doing here for this podcast, to be able to help somebody else out there that is going through different challenges, and understanding that they can be successful also. You're not going, may not be a George Tinsley, you may be someone else. You be wherever your goals take you, and to keep working at them. It may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen the next day, but if you hang in there, it's going to come. So
Yes.
treating people like you want to be treated, and being responsible. That's my feeling.
Man, that's so good. That's such huge gold right there. Well, that kind of leads me to this segment here. I love to give everybody 60 to 90 seconds, but you said the message you care about the most is this: no matter where you started, what barriers were in front of you, or how many times you've had to start over, your legacy is being written, right? Look in the camera and say that straight to the person who out there is looking at a closed door right now, thinking it's too late for them.
Yeah. Well, I would say to anyone looking in today is that you go into your day thinking about what you can do to become a more successful, be a better person, make the people around you be better, or help them, encourage them to be better, and leaving a legacy behind you that you've done your best. You're not ashamed of anything that you've done. You may have failed that particular day, but you got another day to come back and be successful. So
That's right.
Just keeping a positive mindset.
Love that, man. Love it. All right, man. As we come to a close, I've got some rapid fire questions for you, some of which I've already prepared you for. I know we could go keep talking for a long time, but I know you've got a busy day, as do I. But in this season that you're in this season of legacy building, legacy of like passing it forward, what is your definition of grit?
My definition of grit is getting right to the tough part of what's ahead of you and what you've got to accomplish, and digging into it and giving it your best, and not giving up at the first bump in the road or the second bump in the road.
Yes.
But you're hanging in there with it, knowing that if you do, you'll turn around.
Yes. Agree. Love that. All right. Last two questions. When the lights are out, you're in the trenches. Maybe you're in a fire, or you're just in a headspace. What is a quote or directive or even scripture that you tell yourself to pull you out of that moment or out of that trench?
Well, my wife and I, we do a devotion every morning, and my daughter, who is no longer with us, who had an illness and passed away. Philippians 4th chapter 13th verse is, I can do all things through God. And so we feel that you can make it if you believe and you trust, and you just hang in there. It'll happen.
That's a mic drop right there. And my condolences. I'm not sure how long her passing is, but man, I'm so sorry to hear your daughter's passing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last question comes in two parts. And those are listening, I love to give every guest an opportunity of their own to challenge my next guest. And guys, the lineup is completely anonymous. So it's not like I told him in behind the scenes, hey, this is who my guest is. This is their background. It's completely anonymous. And so far, these questions have landed perfectly. So Rich Potter of my previous episode had this question for you. What is the bet you're making on yourself right now that other people may think is wrong?
Well, I probably that I am too old and been and down the road to continue to be competitive through athletics and also through business. And both at 79 and a half, I'm still active on the basketball court, and I'm still active in researching and going after new business opportunities for our family, Tinsley Family Concessions.
You're still at it every single day. I love this. You're going to you took the answer, or you gave the answer for I was going to ask it. 79 and a half.
The 80 in September.
Wow. Well, you don't look like a day over 50. That's why when you said 54 years, I'm like, what? No way. But math makes sense. So I get it. So whatever it is that you're doing, keep doing it because it's certainly working for you. And I admire you to a huge degree, staying active, staying in the game, not just in athletics, but staying in the game in life, period, to inspire others, to inspire generations, to inspire people that are around you, and to inspire so many people that are in a similar path that you were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, that, they're looking behind a closed door and they think it's not their door, right? But to your point, you're finding a way around that door. What would you love to challenge my next guest with? What is a challenge that you would love to have?
What legacy are you going to leave behind?
Ooh. That is so good. And I can't tell you who it is, man, but you have to tune in the episode. But that is so good. Love it. And that's so fitting with you, right? That's so fitting for you. All right. For the person that's listening and or watching and wants to connect with you, to inspire, to be part of your journey or to cheer you on or just connect with you, learn more about your book, your speaking engagements, where can they connect with you and learn more about you?
Well, my website is tinsleyspeaks.com. And you can see all of our material there, social media and so forth. I have my YouTube channel. It's Catch as Catch Can YouTube channel. Also, George Tinsley Senior Speaks is a lot of websites there. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram out there as well. And in our book, Catch as Catch Can, which is a bestseller, which Love is it. At Amazon.com. And we also will be having book signings coming around through Atlanta, Tampa, Miami, and Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, and New Orleans areas that we're looking to book signings.
That's awesome. I failed to catch this earlier. And by the way, we'll be dropping all of this in the show notes, guys. So watch, if you're watching or listening, just make sure you go into the show notes to capture this information. But I'm not too far from Tampa. I'm in Sarasota, right? So when I heard Florida, my radar went off. Like, ooh, I've got to plug myself in because I definitely want to meet you in person for sure. But my youngest daughter lives in Tampa now.
Yeah.
So
we're in the Tampa airport with 16 restaurants there. P.F. Chang's main terminal.
I've eaten there.
All right, Wendy's there, and Starbucks are our main concourse businesses that we have there.
Awesome. Yep, I've definitely eaten some of those places, especially Starbucks. I love getting their doppio espressos or their quad shots. So, man, dude, this has been such a great conversation. I know we could go for a lot longer because there's so much wisdom and so much wealth of knowledge that I can extract from out of this conversation. But I know you've got a busy day ahead, and you've got other lives you got to impact as well. So I can't be too selfish and keep you all myself. But George, man, my dude, thank you for sharing this last hour with us. Not just sharing the amazing highlight reels, the signed basketballs, the trophies, but allowing us a glimpse, a very small glimpse of your story, your journey, your insights, your wisdom. Thank you so very much, man. Thank you.
Well, Karl, I appreciate the good questions that you've asked, and hopefully some of what we've talked about will influence some of your audience out there to be the best they can and create their own legacy and leave it behind. So, thank you, and I appreciate being on your show.
Absolutely, man. The honor has been mine. I do not see this lightly. The honor has been mine. Awesome. To those that are watching and listening, the gap between average and excellence is just action, even imperfect action, guys. Don't just listen to George. Please take one thing he shared today. He shared so much. Use it in the next 24 hours. And as well, be the reason someone doesn't quit today. You've heard George's story. Don't be don't be the reason somebody quits. Don't just keep this up to yourself. Someone in your circle needs it. Send it to them. Share it with them. George, again, my dude, thank you so much for stepping in the arena, my man.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.